Hello friends and enemies, and welcome to fan-made Yu-Gi-Oh! Number 2. I liked this so much last time that I decided to have some more fun with fan-made Yu-Gi-Oh! So I went looking, almost immediately after the last video, I went looking for some more fan-made Yu-Gi-Oh! Mechanics, and I found an entire community of people that just make these. And so I picked some that I thought would be fun to look at today, and let's go ahead and get it started with Composition Monsters. So Composition Monsters seem to be another extra deck type of monster. You require a base monster similar to a tuner monster. Aside from the base monster, the rest of the materials to play them come from the graveyard with no cost, and you place them on top of the base monster, kind of like overlaying for Extremis Monsters. Place the material in front of a composition monster in a weird invisible zone like the Banished Zone. Okay, that's interesting. Detach or deactivate materials to activate the effects. When you deactivate a composition material, you flip it face down and presumably place it at the bottom of the stack. You can use multiple base monsters to summon one composition monster, depending on its requirements. So they got a quick little reminder thing here of how a simplified version of how composition monsters work. Hang on. Did this person make these? I'm 90% sure that this person made this summoning mechanic, but they write their rules as though they are taking the mechanic from someone else. Yeah, I'm reading this, and it still sounds like they didn't actually create composition monsters, but I don't know. This was the only thing I could find, so this is weird. Anyway, let's take a look at the monsters. Alright, so we have Lionheart's Cub, our base monster. This card's name is treating as Lionheart Squire. If you control a Lionheart monster with a level, you can target that monster and tribute it. Special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon one Lionheart Cub once per turn this way. If this card is special summoned this way, you can activate one of the following effects. Send one rank 1 Lionheart Extremis monster from your extra deck to the graveyard. Or attach this card to one Lionheart Extremis monster you control as Extremis material. Now we've got Lionheart King the Guillotine, a 1-star, requires Lionheart Squire and 2 non-base monsters in your graveyard. So the assumption here is that the Lionheart cards would, at least a good chunk of them would count as Squire. Maybe not even a good chunk, just a couple. This card cannot be destroyed by battle. All damage you take in battles involving this card is halved. When this card battles a defense position monster, you can deactivate one composition material from this card, destroy that monster before damage calculation, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the destroyed monster's defense. I don't know how I feel about this. I assume that deactivating, if you're going to be flipping a monster face down and then putting it at the bottom of the stack, once you reach that bottom card and it's flipped face down, you can no longer deactivate, which is fine, I suppose. I think it works, but I think detaching just works a little bit better. Overall, composition monsters seem a little bit weak. Next up, we have Currency Monsters, a monster type that I saw and I immediately went, oh, I like this. Let's take a look at the rules. So mistakenly, I thought that these were original concepts, but no, this person is just reviewing the concepts. I think they should probably put that in the title. They have a little thing here that links to the original creator's page, but the original creator does not, as far as I can see, actually have Currency Monsters on their page anymore, so we're just going to keep going with this one. So Currency Monsters are seen as like an alternate way to pay cost for cards other than just paying life points. They use a counter called Sense, which I would assume would be a currency counter, but I suppose not. Summoning a currency monster requires to use monsters with counters equal to the number of cents on your desired monster. Spending cents is the same as removing counters from a card. Okay. Currency monsters regain cents naturally? What does that mean? Currency monster will have text stating what happens when a specific counter is used on it. It seems simple, but I don't know. Let's take a look at this card. Oh boy. Wow, this card is kind of blasted. I think for this to work well, the text might need to be a little more bold. Structure of Brass and Fortune requires a spellcaster type monster plus 1 or more monsters with 7 spell counters total. So you play this in like a spellbook deck, I guess. It's got 7 cents on it. must first be currency summoned. When a spell counter would be placed on this card gains a cent instead. Okay. Once per turn, this card cannot be destroyed by battle. When this card battles an opponent's monster, this card can spend 3 cents. The effects of the opponent's monster are negated until the end of the battle phase. You may only activate this effect of Structure Brass Fortune once per turn. I think the idea of counters for effects is always good. But in order for that to happen, we would need Yu-Gi-Oh! To have a more consistent basis for giving cards counters, I think. Conceptually, I think this is fun. In practice, I don't think it would work too well. It would either be too broken or it would almost never work. Next, we have Extremis cards. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rules and see how it works. Extremis is an extra deck monster that can only be summoned with monsters in the graveyard. Already, I'm kind of liking that. Extremis monsters are themed around death and things closely associated with it. The required monsters are banished from the graveyard and the Extremis monster is summoned to the field. The stars work like levels and are counted as levels. For the sake of card creation, they're called death counters. Extremis monsters cannot exist in the graveyard. They're a culmination of your monster's soul, and you can't kill what's already dead. They're banished when they're destroyed instead. Alright, cool. Short, simple, and seems like it could be a good idea. So let's take a look at the card. So here we have Bonemancer Prefect, an 8-level Extremis monster. Requires 1 Bonemancer monster and 1 Fiend type monster. This monster cannot attack your opponent directly. When this monster destroys a monster by battle, you can discard 1 card. Your opponent takes 500 damage. This effect can only be used once per turn. When this card is destroyed by battle, special summon 2 monsters that were used in a death summon. Okay, I do really like this card. I think this card is, again, a perfect example of a card that would be in a starter deck to introduce you to a mechanic. You know, it perfectly exemplifies how the mechanic works, and it's not that strong of a card. It's kind of weak. Overall, Extremis Monsters, I think, have really good potential. I think the idea of banishing monsters in order to play an extra deck monster could probably help out a deck a little bit. I mean, of course, you could play cards that just bring your monsters back from banish, but I feel like it is a good mechanic. And last for today, we have a pendulum-inspired card, it looks like, Equilibrium Monsters. So let's take a look at how they work. Seems to be another short one. I would like to introduce Equilibrium Summon E-Summon for short. Works like a pendulum card, kinda, can be played in your monster zone or the Equilibrium Zone. It is treated like a monster in the monster zone and is treated like a trap in the Equilibrium Zone. So it's the thing that casual players have been saying for years, make a pendulum archetype that is, instead of spells, traps. You can summon a monster outside of your scales so long as the monster has the same level as the number in your equilibrium scale. You cannot pendulum summon and equilibrium summon in the same turn, must have 2 pendulum cards in both zones. Must have 2 pendulum cards in both zones to be able to E-summon. I assume they mean equilibrium cards. So if I'm to understand the scales thing correctly, you can equilibrium summon like pendulum summoning, but you can also equilibrium summon the levels that the scales are, unlike pendulum summoning. I'm gonna assume that that's what they mean here. So here we have Hellbound Demon Qui-Gon, a 6-star 4 counter? What's the 4 for? What does that mean? I don't know what the 4 is, so I'm just gonna call it a counter equilibrium. Its equilibrium effect: when your opponent would special summon exactly 1 monster, negate the special summon, and if you do, banish it. Okay. Once per turn during either player's turn, you can target one of your banished Hellbound monsters, shuffle it into the deck, and if you do, change it to defense position. Wait, if you shuffle that monster into the deck, change this monster to defense position. When this card leaves the field, it is banished. Alright, I don't think this card's that bad, like in theory. Of course they didn't say it in the text, but I am under the bold assumption that it works like a trap card. You can place it face down in an equilibrium zone, and then you can flip it face up in order to activate its effect. And because this one is a counter trap, it's got spell speed 3. I assume what the person's trying to get at by making it a trap is that the equilibrium effect only works when it's activated like a trap card. I don't think it's a super bad idea. I think it's fine. You know, I'm not sure how it would work in practice, but I think just looking at this card specifically, looks like it would be fine. You know, it doesn't look like it's trying to be too complicated. So overall, unfortunately for me, I only got those first two archetypes from reviews, I suppose. So I might be getting a little bit of misinformation with those. I will take a look just in case. We know that I love my misinformation. Overall, Equilibrium and Extremis Monsters, I like them a lot. I like Extremis so much. I think Extremis is such a cool idea for a summoning mechanic. Currency Monsters I think are okay, but they kind of need a little bit of work. And Composition Monsters, I'm not sure if I like them. They seem okay to me. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I didn't get to say it last time, but thank you so much for 400 subscribers. It does mean a lot. I never thought that 400 people would be cool with me sitting here talking bad opinions about Yu-Gi-Oh!, playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Badly, and just being wrong generally about certain things and giving misinformation. Thank you so much. It does mean a lot. I hope you enjoyed the videos, and I'm just gonna keep going. Hopefully this video was enjoyable to you. Let me know what you think about any of these mechanics down below. Let me know if maybe you have summoning mechanics that you'd like me to take a look at. That's gonna be all for today. Thank you once again for watching, and until next time, drink your water.